Ladies and gentlemen, unknown to probably most people in the traditional churches today, there is a war that is coming, and it's worse than the Terminator movies. I want to talk to you about transhumanism. I want to talk to you most specifically about the coming human enhancement revolution. Literally around the world today, there are people who are dedicated. Now, we're talking about from executive levels of governments on down. We're talking about national leaders, military leaders, academia, some of the world's most famous philosophers, and they are committed to what can only be thought of as fulfilling the next step in human evolution. Transhumanism is the idea that we now hold it within our grasp to permanently alter, and in their mind, for the betterment, the human race. We are going to brain-machine interface ourselves with strong artificial intelligence systems that may even allow us to communicate with God, they think, in ways that we can't do right now just through the Holy Spirit and the Christian belief in redemption. We are going to use those now to create what Hitler could have only dreamed of in his schemes around the Aryan super race, what Nietzsche, the German philosopher, could have only imagined in his writings about the Übermenschen, the superhuman of tomorrow.
And we're in the same situation because very slowly the human beings on the surface of the planet are realizing themselves into a total planetary organism with an electronic nervous system. You see, in science fiction, which was published round about the 1920s, it was always expected that future human beings would have enormous heads because they would have very big brains and they would be very wise. It didn't work that way. What happens is that the human race is building a brain outside its body. That is to say, an interlocking electronic network of telephonic, television, radionic communications, which is rapidly being interlocked with computers, so that you will, within a few years, be able to plug your own brain into a computer. You will have a little gadget here behind the ear that is slightly like a hearing aid. And that will be integrated with your brain in such a way that you can plug in right here. That will only be an intermediate stage, because just in the same way as when we thought that all communications by electricity had to go through wires, and then we got rid of the wires and got radio and television, so in exactly the same way we'll eventually get rid of telephones and radio and television, and we'll communicate by some entirely new method that is at present called ESP. But that will mean that absolutely nobody has a private life anymore.
Just developed the first DNA hard drive Microsoft has. 1 gram of DNA can store 433 petabytes of data. So they've created a digital DNA hard drive. So now we have the capability of transferring consciousness into a storage capacity. We can literally take a skin cell from your body, create a clone of you up to whatever age specified, and then transfer your consciousness from your body, your mind, into that new avatar.
Look at things like gene editing.
Exactly.
You know, opening a whole new horizon for medical science.
And you see, the difference of this fourth industrial revolution is it doesn't change what you are doing. It changes you. If you take genetic editing,
right.
Just as an example, it's you who are changed.
Yeah.
And of course, this has a big impact on your identity.
Yeah. And offers certain kinds of possibilities that have to be careful about. You know, when you began to do that kind of gene editing, some people worry that you are changing what it means to be human.
That's the problem.
One of the core concepts in transhumanist thinking is life extension. Through genetic engineering, nanotech, cloning, and other emerging technologies, eternal life may soon be possible. See, the sin of the Watchers, the sin when the 200 fallen angels, the Watchers, came down and made the pact to have sex with women and start this new race, is to improve on what God had done. So, because remember, the giants were 9 to 12 feet tall. And so basically what Satan was saying is, okay, you make them 6 feet tall. I'm going to double that. I'm better than you. And so now what we're doing, how can you improve on what God did?
So they're trying to get back in God's face.
That's right. And they're basically, it's like building the Tower of Babel. and they're saying, we can get to heaven without God. And see, that was the sin. They came together and they were basically trying to become their own gods. So now what we're doing is, and cloning is a part of this too, is now the problem is we're saying I can live eternally, but I don't need God.
It has to do with redemption. The Watchers came down, they believed in the proto-evangelium, that the seed of the woman will crush the head of the serpent. That was a prophetic pre-preaching of the coming of Jesus Christ, who was going to redeem mankind from this curse. So what do? They come down, they begin through intermarriage, through, I think also even high sciences, genetic manipulation. The ancient book of Jasher says that they brought about the wrath of God because they began blending one species with another species, therewith to provoke the Lord. But in any case, it led to what the book of Genesis chapter 6, all flesh had become corrupt, only Noah, and therefore by extension his children were perfect. The Hebrew word is tenyon. It's the same word they use to talk about a perfect sacrificial lamb. So it's talking about genetics, right? Wow. Why would they have been doing that? To cut off the birth line of the Messiah, to keep mankind from ever being able to be redeemed through the person of Jesus Christ. What is happening with what you were talking about just a moment ago, through doing this once again to permanently use this kind of technology through what is called gene drive, which will allow you to put out of existence any species and replace it with a new species that has been genetically created by you. They've already proved this in the laboratory, that it can be done. That is exactly what the Watchers were dedicated to doing, to driving out of existence those who had been made in God's image, right? And that's the reason why then it would have cut off redemption. What we're doing right now has the potential to do exactly the same thing again, to create a proto-human that is irredeemable, the armies of Antichrist.
The theme of Davos is going to be the fourth industrial revolution, an all-consuming industrial revolution right across the board, the speed of change 1,000 times faster than during the first industrial revolution, and affecting all services, all products, all countries, all industries, and all people. It's going to lead to job destruction, so we've got to think about the jobs of the future and how we create them. It's going to lead to massive technological change in the way we deliver services. It's going to force governments to change their minds about how they operate. And all this has been set out by Klaus Schwab in the speech he made in Abu Dhabi to the summit of the Agenda Councils.
The first paralyzed person who was able to move his limbs again was Ian Burkhart, who broke his neck at the age of 19. Scientists took a functional magnetic resonance image of Ian's brain while he focused on a video of his hand movements and identified the responsible part of his motor cortex. It was implanted with a chip that reads the activity of the area of the brain, converting and transmitting the signal through a cable to a computer. This information is then sent as an electrical signal to the flexible sleeve around the subject's right arm, and it stimulates the muscles. But most engineers see the ultimate goal of brain implants not in return of the lost feelings and abilities, but empowering the brain by connecting it to a computer, i.e. merging with artificial intelligence. The most famous project in this area is Elon Musk's Neuralink company. Neuralink, or more precisely, neural lace technology, consists of a nanogrid of electrodes that integrate with the brain, allowing it to transmit and receive digital information directly. In the future, this will greatly expand the capabilities of the brain, but will people want to virtually insert a chip into their brains? The issue of potential voluntary cyborgization faces several challenges, from fears that this technology empowerment will only be available to the elite.
You know, I always want to be a cyborg. I'm waiting for the day to become one, but let's see.
I do think you start crossing the line when you think about enhancement augmentation. We'll come back to that. But you know, you talk about cyborg. We're already living in the age of cyborg.
And we're all kind of on the path to that future already, as we've all got smartphones that enable us to have access to information, to see the world in new ways, and to connect to each other very, very quickly and across different platforms.
So some of these upgrades won't involve technology that we wear or implant. Instead, these changes could actually begin at birth and then stay with us for life. How will that work?
Yeah, there's a big movement right now, and there's a lot of advancements in genetic editing, things like CRISPR-Cas9 editing, where you can edit the human DNA so that you can remove congenital illnesses and whatever. But potentially you can choose eye color or strength, fitness, maybe even certain ways that we look and how we can act in the future as well. But this is going to create a gap. So there's a lot of ethics around this in terms of who should have access and who should not. And I think that we need to have an intervention from governmental capabilities that come in and say, okay, this can be really good for everyone. So let's work out how we can get this to everyone that really wants it and really needs it.
In a dimly lit temple, worshippers gather to listen to ancient Buddhist teachings, delivered by a robot. The robot introduces itself as the Buddhist goddess of mercy. According to faith, this deity can appear in any form. The robotic preacher is known as Mindar. It's the brainchild of temple steward Tensho Goto, who's hoping to bring worshippers closer to the divine.
Many Buddhist statues have been made, but they were all just Buddhist images, standing or sitting figures. I wanted to create a Buddhist statue which can speak, make eye contact, and answer questions so that people can feel closer to it.
His vision was fulfilled with the help of a robotics team from Osaka University. Mindar's hands and face are made from silicon, enabling the robot to gesture and talk.
I thought it would be a little scary, but then I actually came to see it and found it very beautiful.
The way the android speaks like a real human being made me, personally, feel very close to it.
Tensho Goto hopes Mindar will be the first of many androids to deliver the teachings of Buddhism, the high-tech way.
Robots may in the future be able to do more than what us monks can do.
Enlightenment with a futuristic twist, perhaps coming soon to a temple near you.